Hey everybody, welcome back to Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, and this is the main event. This is where Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright are head-to-head. So we'll do this little recap here. Remember how the professor was supposed to show up with decisive evidence? Well, nope! He's actually now an Inquisitor! We had Darklaw on the ropes. I mean, we totally drop-kicked her argument into space. We just needed a bit more. But then the professor burst in saying that he would be able to prove Espella is really the Great Witch. There's no way we can give up now, but what do you do when you're up against someone like the professor? Guess we'll find out.
Professor? But what are you doing?
What am I doing, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, you were supposed to show up with some decisive evidence and save the day, Professor.
I'm afraid my only concern here is the truth.
The truth?
The truth behind the real identity of the Great Witch, Espella Cantabella. If seeking the truth requires us to stand on opposite sides of the courtroom, then so be it. I expect you to defend Miss Cantabella with everything you've got, Mr. Wright.
Court is now back in session. Are you prepared, High Inquisitor? So long as I remain on the witness stand, I am no longer High Inquisitor. Simply Darklaw will suffice. Miss Darklaw, I'd like to just confirm something. A moment ago, we established that you were in fact present at the bell tower during the time of the incident. That makes a total of 3 people at the scene. It would appear that was the case. However, you managed to stay hidden from 10 different guards. With the help of this right here. The robe of invisibility. In other words, there is every reason to be suspicious of your actions tonight. Lady Darklaw, well, I cannot believe you would deceive us in such a way. I ask that you tell the court what happened at the time of the incident. Very well. The town square was to be the parade's final stop. I patrolled the perimeter to ensure nothing was amiss. As I passed by the bell tower, a pair of small footprints leading inside caught my eye. I went inside to investigate. I had my own reasons for not allowing one of those vigilantes to see me. I climbed the stairs of the bell tower and saw an intruder inside with their back turned. I proceeded to apprehend them. You apprehended the intruder? While I hold the position of High Inquisitor, there are often times when I partake in various secret tasks, unbeknownst to the citizens of Labyrinthia. One of those tasks being to ensure the security of the storyteller. Security? As such, there is nothing odd nor suspicious about my actions tonight. I see. Defender, you may now begin your interrogation.
Hold it!
And what were those reasons? They relate to protecting the storyteller. It was something I was to carry out at a particular time. Did it perhaps have something to do with what was already decided upon in the story? The storyteller's word is absolute, therefore, any and all those who make an attempt to alter his will must be dealt with immediately.
Hang on!
Excuse me, Miss Kira? Witness. Ah, yes. Figures. She really doesn't remember her own name. You seem to be deep in thought about something. Did you remember anything regarding the High Inquisitor's testimony? No, I'm sorry. Nothing in particular. It's just... I'm a little disappointed in myself. Disappointed? I traveled all the way here to Labyrinthia in order to fulfill my mission, but... all I managed to do was fail and end up being captured. Regardless of your own failure, Miss Kira, the storyteller did die as was foretold, did he not? Tonight, as rain came pouring down over the town, I arrived at my designated location. Naturally, the bell tower was surrounded by guards on patrol. 10, to be exact. I was very nervous. She must be talking about the vigilantes. Just relax, you'll be fine as long as you're wearing this robe, I kept telling myself. Little did I know, I was wrong. But none of this would have happened if I was just a little bit more careful. Enough. I would be thinking more about atoning for your past crimes and less about what could have been if I were you. Is there anything wrong with Kira's testimony? Hold on one second. About your testimony, Miss Kira. You were thinking to yourself that as so long as you had your robe on, you would be fine. Yes, that's right, I was. So basically, you were wearing the robe the whole time you were on the top floor of the tower. Is that right? Yes, I had it on the entire time. That is, until I was attacked. Then my robe was ripped off by the wind. Miss Kira, this is the first time we've heard any mention of this information. Is that so? I think I must have just forgotten. Your Honor, perhaps we should update this piece of evidence in the court record. Right you are. Lady Dockyard, please continue. La 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 la. How could you see them if they were wearing the robe?
Objection!
So, the person you saw when you entered the bell tower was actually Miss Kira. The only problem with that is that it would have been impossible. What are you talking about, Defender? Miss Kira, or should I say the witness, stated that when she was waiting on the upper floor of the tower, she was wearing her invisibility robe. Therefore, there's no way Miss Darklaw could have been able to see the witness. Oh, you're quite right. Anyone wearing this robe becomes invisible. Right, but there is just one particular group that can see anyone dressed in this robe. And who is that exactly? Only residents of the Eldritch Woods would be able to see the robe. If you're from the Eldritch Woods, then you'll have absolutely no problem seeing this thing.
Objection!
So, what you are saying, Mr. Wright, is that Miss Darklaw here actually hails from the Eldritch Woods, is that correct? And she knew this girl prior to tonight. That's right, Professor. What is this? A most impressive display, Mr. Wright. However, there is one detail that you appear to have overlooked. Something I overlooked? You say Miss Darklaw saw something she should not have been able to see. However, the truth is that there is one other possibility as to what occurred tonight. Did he just say what I think he said? It's rather easy to work out. Quite simply, the witness was not wearing the robe in the first place. What are you talking about, Inquisitor? The witness has proven her memory of tonight's events to be quite unreliable. I believe that by the time she climbed the bell tower, she in fact already removed her robe. What? 'Tis as you say, Inquisitor. As you see, Defender, your assertion is mere speculation at best. Your little witness here has been lying to the court the entire time. It's as simple as that.
Objection!
One second. The witness was quite clear in her testimony. Isn't that right, Miss Kira? I'm not sure. What? mean, my memory's a little fuzzy. No way! It would appear there's nothing more to be gained from this line of questioning. Your Honor, I suggest we return to the cross-examination. Fine idea, Inquisitor. Well then, Lady Darklaw, will you please continue with your testimony? As you wish. No matter how you slice it, Kira looks like she's definitely hiding something. If only there was some way to get her to talk, huh, Nick? No matter what Kira says, Darklaw just stays cool and brushes it off. Yeah, this isn't going to be easy, that's for sure. That's why we really need to set our sights on Darklaw if we keep doing that. Then sooner or later, Kira's bound to speak up and say something. Whoa, Nick, that's your most dastardly, devious plan yet. That's right. All right. I know there's still a clue or two in this testimony somewhere, and I'm going to find it. I should go back and double-check her previous testimony. There must have been some more contradictions.
Hold it!
Those must have been Miss Kira's footsteps from when she snuck into the bell tower, right? Indeed. The ground outside was quite muddy after the rain, so her footprints were easily visible. Right, according to the vigilante's testimony. They thought the footprints looked like Foxy's, but turned out they weren't hers. Oh wait, that was Phoenix. That's right, her footprint would have contained a mark where the stiletto had been. But the footprints I saw at the bell tower contained no heel mark at all. And you stepped inside of those footprints on your way up the stairs so as not to leave your own and risk being detected, correct? Exactly. At that time, my main task was to ensure the safety of the town square. In doing so, it was of the utmost importance that no one knew of my presence there. Had the townspeople noticed your presence there, it would undoubtedly have raised some suspicion. Indeed, so naturally that is why I did not wish to be noticed by the vigilantes. Therefore, it was imperative that I mask any traces of my being there, even if it meant utilizing another's footprints. I see. A clever tactic worthy of the High Inquisitor herself. Is there anything about her testimony, off about her testimony just now? Something very wrong. Miss Darklaw, I just noticed something in your testimony that's very relevant to the case. The defense requests that you amend your testimony. You just can't help letting your ridiculous imagination of yours run wild, can you? The Inquisition has no objections. Very well. Witness will amend her testimony.
Objection!
What I have here is a sketch of the footprints left at the bell tower. So tell me, Miss Darklaw, are these your footprints in this sketch? It would appear so. I would never mean to offend the hard work of Labyrinthia's vigilantes, but tonight's task was mine and mine alone. Okay. When you put it that way, I can't help but notice a contradiction. What did you say? Miss Darklaw, you stated the following. When you climbed the stairs, your footprints had no heel, so you tried to match your footprints to them as far as possible. However, if you look at the actual footprints that were left behind, you can clearly see that not only is the heel present, but so is the entire foot. If you were trying so hard to step on the footprints already there, then the footprints in the sketch shouldn't have heel marks. That's very true. Although I do not think such a small detail is of much importance in the long run. I agree. It is a small detail, Your Honor. But that's not all I noticed. There was something very telling about Miss Darklaw's testimony. Telling, you say? She stated that she stepped onto the footprints that were already at the scene in order to disguise her presence. Now, there's something strange there. Specifically, why were these footprints left at the crime scene in the first place?
Objection.
Mr. Wright. Yes, Professor? Tell me, can you show the court why this seemingly minor detail is odd? I can't exactly do that at the moment. Who can say whether or not these footprints are indeed worthy of concern? And if that is an issue, then what exactly are the implications? That, above all, is what you must answer, Mr. Wright. I do not believe you can assert that this is a blatant contradiction at this time. Ugh, there he goes again, flexing that amazing brain of his. That's enough. Miss Kira? Lady Darklaw, how could you? How could you simply abandon us? How could you betray us? Betray? Witness, what is the meaning of this? Lady Darklaw, you are the mistress of the Eldritch Woods. You are the one responsible for handing us our tasks. What? This wretched girl is nothing more than a detestable spawn of magic. Her words cannot be taken seriously. People of Labyrinthia, I ask you, what am I if not a loyal daughter of this fair town? No, you're lying, Lady Darklaw. When I was waiting up there at the top of the bell tower, I was most certainly wearing that robe. Huh? Lady Darklaw, you were also wearing a similar robe, were you not? Don't you remember? What nonsense. I haven't a clue what you're babbling about. I simply managed to sneak right by those makeshift guards, which was not the most demanding of tasks for someone like me. Yes, you're right. That would be true. If you'd been sneaking around by yourself. By yourself? Explain yourself. Enough. Listen to me and listen well. Continue as you are, and I will see to it that this court be the last place in which you ever set foot. It matters not. The end is already nigh. After the events of today, I shouldn't even be here right now. Miss Kira, you're saying that Miss Darklaw was not by herself at the time of the incident tonight? That's right. Lady Darklaw was wearing the invisibility cloak, and underneath that robe was a young girl, passed out on her back. What? A girl? Could that be? Yes. It was the very same girl imprisoned inside that cage up there. You mean... Espella Cantabella? Order! Order! So the accused was carried up the bell tower? Lord, there's nothing left for me to say. 'Tis the word of the High Inquisitor versus that of a witch. Tell me, who would you sooner believe?
Objection.
Miss Darklaw, you of all people should be aware that this isn't a matter of believing or not believing. I'm afraid those are the words carry no meaning here. The only thing that carries any meaning here with this courtroom is evidence. Don't you agree, Mr. Wright? Yes, absolutely, Professor. Well, now, things are beginning to heat up a little, are they not? Fine, tell me, Defender, have you the means to prove this assertion? Do you actually think you can prove that I, the High Inquisitor of Labyrinthia, carried the accused into the bell tower? From the looks of it, Miss Kira was supposed to keep quiet about Darklaw's little secret, but she couldn't deal with all of Darklaw's details and finally found the judge to chime in. I can't let Kira's effort go to waste. I don't care what stands in my way. I'm going to find the truth. Your Honor, the defense wishes to present evidence proving that Miss Darklaw did in fact carry my client up the tower. Very well, Defender. Show us the evidence that proves Lady Darklaw carried the accused up the tower.
Take that!
There was something in your testimony just now that I'm not buying. And that's the footprints that were left at the bell tower. Did I not just finish admitting that those were my footprints? Miss Darklaw, you stated the following. There was no heel on the footprint, so as I ascended the stairs, I was careful to match my footsteps to them as far as possible. However, the reality is, the footprints pictured in the sketch actually do contain a heel. That means something must have prevented you from being able to tiptoe along the footprints that were already there. Prevented? Ah, you mean... That's right, Your Honor. Miss Darklaw, when you climbed up the bell tower tonight, you must have been carrying Miss Cantabella on your back, is that correct? If you remember, it rained quite heavily tonight. That means the stairs must have been quite slippery. With your two hands occupied carrying my client, there would be no safe way for you to tiptoe up the stairs without falling. That right there is the truth behind the footprints on the staircase. Lady Darklaw, you... Fine. I admit it. It is as you say, I donned the robe and made my way up the tower. But I was not alone. I carried both Espella Cantabella and her little friend up the tower with me. Little friend? That black-furred creature of hers, the thing is nary ever a second from her side. Oh, she must mean Eve. When I arrived at the top of the tower, I saw this girl already there and called out to her. I was very shocked to see the mistress show up in person like that. The girl's presence was an inconvenience, so I immediately put her to sleep. Believe it or not, it was just like you said, Defender. I used what remained of Belduke's medicine to put the girl out of the picture. And that's when Miss Kira put up a fight and pulled this pendant right off your neck, correct? That's right. I cannot fathom it. That would mean this pendant actually belongs to you, Lady Darklaw? I just have one question, Miss Darklaw. Why? Why take Espella up the bell tower? Why render her unconscious? And why go through the trouble of sneaking past the guards? What exactly was your aim in all this? I am in no way obliged to answer that question, Defender. What? What makes you say that? Simple. None of this has any relevance to the case at hand. That is why.
Objection!
Miss Darklaw, you rendered the witness unconscious and locked her up at the top of the bell tower. I'd say that is more than a little relevant.
Objection!
Your Honor, if I may. The Inquisition believes the defense's question to be irrelevant to the current case. Professor, what are you saying? It would seem that the defense has forgotten a very important point. Namely, the point of this, Mr. Wright. Huh? The aim of this trial is to find the identity of the Great Witch Bezella. Whether or not Miss Darklaw Maud that locked the witness at the top of the bell tower is hardly relevant to the purpose of this trial. But there is one thing that is very clear. Neither Miss Darklaw nor this witness could possibly be Bezella. What? If either one of the two were Bezella, then there would be no need for them to have used this robe of invisibility. They cannot use any magic. Therefore, it is inconceivable that either of them could be the Great Witch. A rather straightforward argument, if there ever was one. At the time of the incident, there were 3 people present. Of those 3, 2 used the robe of invisibility to vanish from sight, leaving only one person, indeed, Miss Cantabella. With this in mind, the larger question is, who is Bezella? Is that not obvious? The accused, Espella Cantabella, is the only possible answer. Besides, the accused voice was heard by all the townspeople chanting the spell, Cranworm.
Objection!
Not so fast. I happen to think these witnesses are extremely relevant to this trial. Did you forget about Miss Kira? She supposedly took a one-way trip into that pit of fire over there. And yet, here she is in one piece testifying that she returned in order to kill the ruler of Labyrinthia, the storyteller. Then there's Miss Darklaw, who rendered the defendant unconscious and proceeded to transport her up the bell tower. I'd say there's more than enough reason to investigate who these two really are. Only to discover that they are not, in fact, the Great Witch Bezella. I'm saying that there's a possibility that these two are somehow related to Bezella. court will now announce his thoughts on the matter. I must say, what Inquisitor Layton has stated certainly does ring true. However, Lady Darklaw, I have one question I must ask you. What exactly were you hoping to accomplish here tonight? I assure you, 'twas not my intent to deceive the good citizens of Labyrinthia. However, I must now reveal the truth to you all. What did she say? You think Darklaw is in league with the witches, do you? She can't be. She's the one who saw the other witch's demise. Lady Darklaw, are you saying that you're... That's right, my lord. I am a shade. A shade? Lady Darklaw, will you please tell the court exactly what you mean when you say that you're a shade? Yes, of course. I grow weary of standing behind this bench. I will tell you all I can. What the heck is she trying to pull? Why testify about something that could potentially undermine your credibility? Shades live outside the realm of those who dwell within Labyrinthia. To them, I am known as the Great Witch. Those that are put to the flames in the witch trials become shades, who live their lives in the woods. We exist to carry out tasks given to us by our mistress, the Great Witch herself. I am not a witch, nor am I a wandering spirit. What on earth? High Inquisitor Darklaw. Do you mean to say that not only are you a witch, but that you're the Great Witch? Unbelievable! Lady Darklaw's the Great Witch! The Great Witch? Doesn't that mean she's Bezella? That's right, Lady Darklaw's Bezella. I do hope you have not forgotten what we established only moments ago. It is not possible for Miss Darklaw to be Bezella. But Inquisitor Layton, certainly the testimony just now proves it. I am afraid that in the heat of such revelations, you may have all misheard the information. It is pointless. This is the extent of what people of this town will believe. I believe the truth will become clear during their cross-examination. Don't you agree, Mr. Wright? Defender, you may begin your interrogation.
Hold it!
Great Witch. Yes, that's right. However, I am not Bezella. The mistress to those who dwell in the Eldritch Woods is dubbed the Great Witch. Even if I wanted to be Bezella, I couldn't. As the ever-so-charming Inquisitor stated earlier, I cannot use magic. Miss Darklaw, I have one question. What do you mean by live outside of the realm? I mean just that, Inquisitor. We truly do live in a realm separate from this town. Now surely one as intelligent as yourself has worked out the answer by now, no? Perhaps. That may remains to be seen, Miss Darklaw. Regardless, 'tis something we cannot discuss with anyone. But it is something that the defense should be able to prove. That almost sounds like a challenge. By the way, Miss Darklaw, since you're not actually a witch, why do you continue to be called that? To answer that, I must first discuss the true identity of the Shades.
Hold it!
So you're saying that the Kira here right now is a shade version of the Kira from before? Indeed, Defender. The girl has no recollection of her life prior to living in those woods. What manner of witchery is this? Why? This girl, Kira the flower seller, was cast straight into the flames before our very eyes. That's right, Your Honor, but as you can see, she didn't die. You see, there's actually a trick to the incineration device in the witch's court. A trick? Once the verdict has been delivered, the court attendants move the steel cage into position, after which it seals shut. Seals shut. Then, the cage is dropped down into a pit of fire. The bottom of the cage then opens, allowing the witch inside to escape unharmed into an underground passage. If what you're saying is true, Defender, then what of this town's witch-purging history? What has been the purpose of all this? You and the knights have indeed been ridding Labyrinthia of witches. However, nary a single life has been taken in the process. That is the reality. But you cannot truly expect me to believe such a ridiculous notion. Your Honor, it's true. Take a good hard look. It doesn't get any more alive than this. Ah, it is you! I am May. I am May. That's close enough, I guess. Well, it's actually Maya Fey, but your forgetfulness. Ooh, what the heck are you doing? Everyone's gonna recognize you. Yeah, but seeing is believing, Nick, and now they have to believe you. Do you see? Are you satisfied? All those found guilty in the witch trials lose their names, magic, and memory. They are then sent to spend their lives as shades in the Eldritch Woods. And the mistress of those shades is the Great Witch. As you can see, this girl too has become a shade. I have no more words to express my utter disbelief in this situation. That is enough. Shall we return to the testimony? Why do I have a feeling that things are going to get a lot worse?
Hold it!
These tasks you mentioned, were you acting on them this evening? Yes, I was told to come here and become Bazella. Wait just a moment, witness. Did you just say become Bazella? My, how absolutely dreadful. Why would anyone be given such a terrible task? Where have these shades come from? Order, order! I'm sorry, I don't know why I was given such a task. All I can do is follow the orders that I am given. If I can do that, then I can return. What do you mean you can return? Such is the nature of the shades. Neither human nor witch. Theirs is an existence spent in the shadows. Each of the shades is given a specific tasks. Then, upon successfully completing such tasks, they are allowed to return to Labyrinthia as brand new people. But Lady Darklaw, how can they return as brand new citizens? When we already know who they were. For instance, we all recognize the former flower seller standing before us. Now that, my lord, remains a secret. And a secret you will come to understand sooner rather than later. Simply baffling. The one who gives us our tasks is the Great Witch. That would be you, Lady Darklaw. Oh magnificent one. While this explanation is wrought with much I cannot comprehend, I request the witness add it to their testimony. Okay.
Hold it!
So, about these tasks. Can you give us any other examples? A shade's task is to never be discussed with others, no matter what. She says that even though she just finished telling us about her secret task. Incidentally, do you perhaps remember when you arrived back in town to carry out your orders? Well, not really. My memory is still a little fuzzy. Say, didn't Kira only just recently become one of those shade thingies? Still, I failed in my task tonight. Come to think of it, when Luke and I had our little run-in with Kira, I remember being blown clear across the marketplace, but I never saw any explosives or gunpowder. Maybe. Kira was given the tasks of blowing you to smithereens, Nick. And we're done. Getting back to this testimony. I'm sure there's something here that just doesn't add up. You really don't have any recollection of your old flower-selling self, do you? I don't. When a witch becomes a shade, they lose all memory of their past life. They lose their memories, but why? And yet, you still have some grasp of the concept of magic, do you not, Witness? Let me spell it out for you. Magic does not exist in the Eldritch Woods. Oh, but there are actually lots of things back in the forest that I have not seen in this town. There are things you haven't seen here. Like really huge machines, that sort of thing. There's one that spits out fire with such amazing speed, and then it expels these huge plumes of gray smoke. A machine that spits fire? Never have I heard of such a thing. Are you certain that these machines of which you speak are not simply magic? You know, now that you mention it, I don't think anyone from this town can actually see those of us from the forest. They can't see you. Could it be something like that robe? Why would she need to wear the robe if they can't see it? How can such a thing even be possible without magic?
Objection!
Miss Darklaw, may I interrupt you for just a moment? What is it, Inquisitor Layton? Through your testimony just now, we have all come to understand the process of how one becomes a shade. However, I was hoping you could perhaps elaborate on one additional point. Namely, what exactly is the purpose behind the shades? If you wish to know our purpose, there are certain other things you must first understand. Once you've done that, the answer should be quite clear. Isn't that right, Defender? The purpose behind the shades? Rest assured, you will not get the answer from me. As the saying goes, the witch is in your court, Defender. What? Sounds like Darklaw's challenging me to figure this out. Challenge accepted.
Objection!
Something that doesn't exist. I have a feeling no one is going to like the answer I'm about to give, and it'll probably end up shaking this town to its very core. But I've got to tell them. The truth has got to come out. Since I arrived here in Labyrinthia, there's been no shortage of really strange events. Ignatize, Demir, Godor, Goldor, and now Granwyn. The mere command of magic is in itself a crime, is it not? In this town, witches are arrested and made to participate in witch trials. They are then sentenced to death by fire. But none of these witches actually died. That supposed death by fire wasn't real. Neither is magic. It doesn't really exist. What are you saying, Defender? The Eldritch Woods apparently contain some rather large machines, unlike anything that exists within Labyrinthia. Machines that emit fire and produce large plumes of smoke. To top it all off, the citizens of Labyrinthia are not able to see said machines. Sounds like nothing more than magic. Yes, that's exactly it, Your Honor. Miss Darklaw. Magic doesn't really exist in this town. That's the answer, isn't it? Magic does not? What are the nonsense? It seems we've finally arrived at the stunning conclusion. The secret behind Labyrinthia. What? What? Order, 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 I say! What is the meaning of this? It means that all of the magic you've seen in this town was nothing more than illusion created and put into motion by the Shades. The Defender, the witches, we've clearly seen them use magic. let us take a moment to think carefully about the systems employed by the shades. Systems? What is essential in order for a witch to use magic? The witch must possess a Tela Magica, and it must say an incantation in order to cast a spell. And the spell is able to be cast or determined by the scepter's magic gems. Now, what do you think is the purpose of placing such requirements on the use of magic? What do you mean, purpose? These requirements are not there to allow the user to cast magic. Rather, the reality is they are there to inform the shades of who should be using magic. It is possible that witches were always being closely observed by shades. That's why they donned these robes, to appear hidden until they were needed to create magic. Create. Indeed, there are all kinds of spells within this tome. It would be quite troublesome if they were simply allowed to use any spell at all. Yeah, it would make the Shade's job that much more difficult, for sure. Precisely so. That is why it is imperative that a certain restriction be placed on the use of magic. Ah, you're referring to the Tala Magica, right, Professor? Of course. No wonder the scepter could contain only 2 magic gems. Then there's the incantation. What would happen if a witch could simply whisper the incantation quietly to herself, or not even say anything at all? Boy, that'd be so cool. I'd be casting spells all day long and no one could even see it coming. Maya, we've spent an entire trial proving that you weren't a witch, remember? If the witches didn't give some sort of signal, then there would be no way for the shades to know when to cast the spell. Right you are, Mr. Wright. The incantations were a way of telling the shades when the witch was ready to use magic. What on earth? Never did I think these requirements could have such a purpose. Now, let's think back to the previous events leading up to today that have involved magic. Our first encounter with magic was the use of the spell Ignitize a few nights ago. A spell like this was nothing more than flames spewed from a machine being used by the shades. Then that means Demir. A spell that makes the caster disappear? No doubt about it, must have been this robe. Next is the incident with Goldor, a spell that transmuted me into a gold statue. While I understand this may sound a bit absurd, I can only surmise that the shades created a gold statue in my image, took me and left it in my place the instant the incantation was uttered. Professor, that's no more absurd than anything that's happened so far. We can therefore conclude that all of the magic in Labyrinthia was created in a similar vein. What do you say to that, Miss Darklaw? I'd expect nothing less from you, Professor Layton. Inquisitor Layton. At any given time, there were between 5 and 10 witches in town. All of the witches were accompanied by shades at all times. It was easier than you would think. You see, the shades living in Eldritch Woods would total in the hundreds. It was simply a matter of having each of the shades cooperate in shifts in order to watch over each of the witches within the town. I must say, Lady Darklaw, there's quite a number of shades. It was not only those who fell victim to the flames that were turned into shades, but their victims, too, were made into permanent residents of Eldritch Woods. Then, those 2 shady thieves from before were turned into shades? Ah, yes, you mean Robs and Mugs. Despite their dubious appearance, those 2 were a couple of my best shades. Shady thieves turns into shades. This stuff writes itself. Cannot believe what I've heard. However, there's still one thing I do not understand just yet. And what would that be? As has just been explained, we have established there's no possibility of magic being real. But replacing me with a gold statue to give the illusion of transmutation, for example, while it sounds simple enough, I myself, and presumably also Miss Fay, have no recollection of this replacement actually taking place. Hey, that's right! The professor got all blingy-blingy before I could even bat an eye. It begs the question, how and when was the statue created, let alone used to replace me? And that is true. The same goes for Godor. It's supposed to create a portal between 2 green-colored walls. Perhaps that is exactly why the spell can only work on green walls, Mr. Wright. Still, it'd be impossible for the Shades to get those portals ready so quickly. I agree. If we take a moment to think, we can see that all of these spells have one strange thing in common. A thing in common? Yes, indeed. Almost as if some time between the start and end of the incident was unaccounted for. Furthermore, any memory I might have had regarding the incident seems to have simply disappeared in the process. I've got it, Nick! It's just like what happened to Kira. She's got absolutely no memory of her life in Labyrinthia before the trial, right? Yes, I do not remember this Kira you speak of. And, oh yeah, when you really think about it, doesn't it seem super weird how the Shades are able to return to town when they complete their tasks? You're right, Maya. I mean, the townsfolk are bound to remember some things about them, right? Like how Miss Kira here threw a major hissy fit in court and was barbecued for being a witch. Eloquently put, Mr. Wright. Hence, we cannot yet conclude that this entire illusion was primarily accomplished through the use of machinery. Simply put, there must have been some way of affecting the memories of those within the confines of this town. Missing time and lost memories? Now that is interesting, Inquisitor. You are correct. There is in fact a secret that lies within the depths of Eldritch Woods. Something that the people of this town cannot see. Something that can rob people of their time and memories. 'Tis the very thing that connects all of what you've heard tonight. 'Tis a secret of monumental proportions. And let me guess. 'Tis a secret that cannot be revealed by the mistress of Eldritch Woods. Is that right? Yes. An excellent deduction, Defender. Witch's soul has wandered astray within the Eldritch Woods. Until tonight, I thought this was nothing but a mere fairy tale told to children, but it has become clear that a seemingly large organization lies within that forest. The Witch's Court is the border between this world and the other world. Then that means, in this world, you're Labyrinthia's High Inquisitor, while also being mistress to the Shades in the other world, otherwise known as the Great Witch. May I intervene for just a moment, Mr. Wright? Sure. In all honesty, there's still something that sticks out as a little odd, particularly in Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. Did you say the previous testimony? Oh, I thought I already pushed that out of my head. There was one vital truth that we managed to take away from that testimony. You mean that magic does not truly exist in Labyrinthia? Indeed, quite the vital, albeit shocking truth. However, there's one more truth hidden within that same testimony. Something else in the testimony? Must have checked the court record more times than I can count, but I didn't find a single other contradiction. Have you forgotten already, Mr. Wright? When there is no evidence left, we have but one more weapon at our disposal with which to uncover the truth. Oh, hey, I got it, Nick. Remember, in a witch trial, you can cross-examine two witnesses at the same time. Hey, that's right, I completely forgot. Being able to have a look at two testimonies side by side is bound to turn up a contradiction somewhere. And that contradiction should provide us with a much-needed clue. I'm not entirely sure when the professor's going with this, but I believe his judgment. Besides, if we're going to blow this case wide open, it's got to be worth a shot. Very well. We will now take a closer look at Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. This is it, Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. There's a glaring contradiction between this piece of testimony and the others. Ready yourself, Mr. Wright.
Objection!
Your Honor, there's obviously a huge discrepancy between these two pieces of testimony. Miss Darklaw stated that she is known as the Great Witch. However, according to Miss Kira's testimony, Miss Darklaw was her venerable mistress, the Great Witch. That is correct. She was the Great Witch. Note Miss Kara's use of the past tense. Past tense? I'm afraid my grammar is not quite what it used to be. May I ask what you mean? It's simple. Miss Darklaw was Mistress to the Shades, or as they call her, the Great Witch. Therefore, she is no longer the Great Witch. She's not the Great Witch? Witness, is this true? Huh? It is as you've heard, my lord. I relinquish my position as Great Witch in order to fulfill the objective of this task. What would that objective be again? That would be the assassination of the storyteller, Your Honor. Witness, at the beginning of this trial, you stated that if you came to town in order to complete your task, didn't you? What's more, you said that you were going to summon the fire dragon to do it. Now, this task, it wasn't Miss Darklaw here that gave it to you, was it? No, it wasn't. So then, the most pressing question is, who was it that gave you that task? Who told you to come to Labyrinthia and assassinate the storyteller? I cannot tell you, no matter what. Alright, so Darklaw isn't the Great Witch anymore. Which must mean the mastermind behind the entire thing is... it would seem the defense has worked it out as well. Mr. Wright, you know who really gave Miss Kira her task tonight, do you not? Defender, I ask you to enlighten the court. Show us who really gave the witness the task to assassinate the storyteller.
Take that!
The storyteller? We're talking about someone with the authority and power to replace the Great Witch. Someone who calls the shots. I can't think of anyone that meets those criteria, except for the storyteller himself. Preposterous! Then that would mean... Exactly, Your Honor. It means that the storyteller gave his final task to Kira himself. He was, in short, responsible for his own assassination. What? Order in the court. But for what purpose? Why would he plan his own assassination? That I cannot say, Your Honor. However, the final chapter of the story does tell of his inevitable death. While he assigned his task to Kira himself, it is perfectly natural that he would do it so. However, what is not natural is your behavior tonight, Miss Darklaw. What was unnatural about the High Inquisitor's behavior? You were once the head of all the Shades, and yet tonight you tried to interfere with the storyteller's plan. You rendered Miss Kira unconscious and locked her away in the belfry of the bell tower. That, to me, seems like the activity of someone aiming to put a stop to his plan altogether. Indeed, Lady Darklaw, what would be the reason for such behavior? I leave that to you, Miss Wright. Mr. Wright. Based on what I've seen in this trial, the defense believes Miss Darklaw's reason for covering up her actions tonight can only be attributed to one thing. This plan was handed down by the storyteller himself. And Miss Darklaw was definitely aiming to put a wrench in it, but why? There's one possible reason I can think of as to why Miss Darklaw tried to hide her actions tonight. She was aiming to betray the storyteller. Betray the storyteller? I agree, Mr. Wright. The storyteller used the Great Witch Bezella to take his own life. Instructions to carry out the plan were given to Miss Kira. However, Miss Darklaw planned to intervene and change the scenario at the very last minute. She planned to do so by changing the identity of the Great Witch from Miss Kira to Miss Cantabella, thus bringing us to our current situation. Miss Cantabella on trial for the murder of her father at the hands of Bezella. You, Miss Darklaw, seem to harbor a rather strong hatred for the storyteller, if I am not mistaken. A hatred, you say? Yes, I suppose you could call it that. That's right. Behold, my revenge. Did you say revenge? Miss Darklaw, will you please tell the court of your plan for revenge? If you insist. The High Inquisitor, and also the Great Witch. Long have I donned those two masks, One as Labyrinthia's protector, the other as a harbinger of destruction. In other words, I was merely meant to serve him. And yet, he sought to selfishly pin the ending of the story under his own terms. He did not care enough about me or any of the townspeople to allow us the dignity of deciding our own fate. Indeed, what we witnessed tonight was the cowardly act of a man looking for an easy way to end that which he could not properly finish. He cared for no one but himself, hence this sudden sham of an ending. And for that, I will never forgive him. What do you mean by sham of an ending? The Great Witch Bezella is to summon the Dragon of Fire and end the life of the Creator. She will then be put on trial and judged, thus heralding a period of peace and prosperity for all of Labyrinthia. Such is the ending written for this town and its people. 'Tis not an ending I oppose in principle. Who would not wish a happy ending for their own people? However, the problem lies in Bezella's identity. Bezella's identity. As you know, he assigned the role of the Great Witch to this girl beside me. But you're saying that was a falsehood, is that correct? I knew Bezella's true identity. 'Tis not something I could ever forget. That is why I went to the bell tower, and it is why I took the accused there. I did it to ensure the true wish foretold in the story was given the judgment she was due. The true witch? You don't mean... Yes, I speak of none other than Espella Cantabella.
Objection!
Miss Darklaw, there's a glaring conclusion in your statement, a contradiction in your statement. And what would that be? It's supposedly common knowledge that Bezella is capable of using magic. However, that is far from the truth. Magic does not actually exist in this town. It was all one giant illusion created by the Shades. Therefore, the Great Witch Bezella cannot exist either. It's almost like some guy made this all up. You fool. Defender, you really don't have a clue, do you? But wait a minute just now. Is the Defender not correct? If magic does not exist, then it goes without saying that witches do not exist either. And that would include the Great Witch, would it not? That's right. They've been lying to us this whole time. Dastards. Bezella isn't real.
Objection!
Mr. Wright, there is a fundamental mistake in your argument. What do you mean? I have but one simple question. What exactly is Bezella? Huh? Well, she's supposed to be the head of all the witches. Allow me to reword the question. The Great Witch Bezella is the root of all disaster within Labyrinthia. Knowing that, what specific disaster might she have been the root of? That would be, I just thought of something. We've been hearing Bezella's name left and right since we got here, but not once has the real Bezella shown up in person. Indeed, Miss Faye, Bezella herself is virtually absent for the entire story. But Inquisitor, did she not claim the life of the storyteller tonight? It would appear so, Your Honor. However, there's just one more thing. Consider this. Which particular story is every citizen of Labyrinthia most familiar with? Well, that would have to be the legendary fire, right? Precisely. Surely you're not serious. As the name implies, that is a mere legend. No one knows for certain if it occurred. So they say. But the reality is there are still traces of that terrible fire within the town today. The Professor's right. You've even seen some of it up close and personal. Yeah, the Great Archive. You are indeed correct, Inquisitor. Littered throughout the town are burnt remnants of a fire most fierce. However, no one can say for certain what transpired back then. You see, not a soul saw what actually happened. Let me see if I have this straight. There's an entire town full of people and no one saw what happened? Correct. Except for one particular person. What? There's one person who saw everything. I am speaking, of course, of the one responsible for the fire itself, the Great Witch Bezella. Yes. I remember all of it. Espella, what are you saying? When I close my eyes, I can picture it so vividly. The awful sight of the flames engulfing everything they touched. The scorching heat on my skin, the smell of burning cinder all around me. The large plumes of black smoke, the warm tears streaming down my face. I remember it all. What you are recalling now is the moment the Great Witch Bezella destroyed our town. Well, it appears my role here is finished. As for the rest, I leave it in your capable hands, Inquisitor. Huh? Darklaw, she just vanished into thin air. She's right. These memories are proof that I am Bezella. But Espella. Mr. Wright. Remember, if you will, what I said at the beginning of this trial. I came here to prove that Espella Cantabella is in reality the Great Witch Bezella. Right. There is still one more thing I wish to present to the court. I would now like to call the final witness to the stand. The final witness?
Hold it!
Ah, it would appear he has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I give you the trial's final witness, the storyteller. And just like that, he appeared, the man who had died not hours before, and the victim of this very trial, the storyteller himself. The professor sure chose one heck of a final witness. Morning is dawning closer and closer. How will this trial end is anyone's guess. Alright, we got more next time. So hopefully you'll join us next week on Sunday. I've been making these a little extra long since I've been doing only one a week. Geez, that was about an hour. So hopefully you're liking this. I think we only have 2 or 3 more to go. So we should be finishing this up in the next month or so. So anyway, hope you enjoy and have a great rest of your weekend and a good week ahead. Got the normal schedule. Sea of Stars and Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Lots of fun during the week. And then more of this on Sunday. So check it out and catch you later.